Just a little while ago, the internet got excited over a new demo for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System that recreated a stage from Sega's own Sonic for the Genesis. It was an interesting piece of work, meant to show that almost one for one, the Super Nintendo could do the graphics, sound, and speed of Sega's popular mascot. This was perhaps in response to the years of blast processing commercials Sega hammered Nintendo with, and proved it was nothing more than marketing hype. Or maybe it was just the skill and curiosity of a very talented programmer flexing his muscle. I must admit that I was quite impressed with it once I got around to playing it. It sure did look and sound like Sonic, a weird and surreal feeling on a Nintendo machine of that era, despite Sega being a third-party developer these past 20 years now. In this episode, we'll take a look at the Sonic demo for the Super Nintendo, compare it a bit to the Genesis original, and cover the misconceptions that often surround what gaming hardware was capable of. I hope you guys enjoy Sonic on the Super Nintendo. Starting up the demo for the Super Nintendo, you notice some differences immediately if you're a veteran of the Sega original. Colors appear darker, the Sonic sprite is more squat, and the gameplay feels a bit off. While it does indeed look like Sonic, it looks like Sonic ported to another hardware platform. I think a lot of this can be attributed to the two games running at different resolutions. Most Super Nintendo games run at 256 by 224 and are stretched to the 4:3 aspect, which you can clearly see in the Sonic sprite itself, which originally ran at 320 by 224 on the Sega Genesis. There are definitely some issues with the physics engine as well. Sonic feels a tad different on the Super Nintendo. Most of this difference takes place when Sonic is in the air, particularly the control you have over him after he jumps. There was also a lot of fuss over this being proof that the Super Nintendo could handle a game just as fast as the Genesis. Of course, the Super Nintendo always had a number of games already with fast scrolling, but this somehow was supposed to be the definitive nail, that blast processing was complete BS. The music was also something of a talking point. Many claim the music in the demo sounded better than the original Genesis tunes. I honestly don't agree with that. The Super Nintendo did an admirable job recreating it, but the Genesis is clearly in its element, pumping out a louder and more pronounced tune that only FM synth was capable of. But don't let these opinions make you think I was not impressed with the demo. I certainly was, and played it back to front multiple times, soaking it all up. After my fourth or fifth time through, I'd even argue that many of the differences these two engines have are likely down to just how they render and process things, and the programmer's touch for dealing with that. In a way, it perfectly mirrors the developers of the time having to deal with multiple versions of the same game. Different teams had different ways of dealing with the hardware, often resulting in games looking, running, and sounding quite unique, despite the source material being the same. Seeing the comments about this demo also made me realize that despite 40 plus years of wisdom, we have learned very little as a community about gaming hardware. Many of us are still beholden to the belief that hardware is still the biggest factor when it comes to the quality of software written for it, that power equals a better product. It never has, and it's about time we realized that it's always been about who is writing the code. While the Super Nintendo and Genesis both handle sprites and backgrounds differently from one another, they are, at their heart, more alike than not. They both have their special abilities, of course. The Genesis was built around a fast central processor, the Motorola 68000, and a VDP that could manipulate lots of sprites and background tiles quickly. This manifested in many games that used tons of parallax scrolling, and the shoot 'em up genre getting copious amounts of representation. The Super Nintendo had more available colors, sampled instruments, and hardware scaling that could manipulate a background plane. You saw many games use these features right from jump. Pilot Wings, F-Zero, and Super Mario World all flex the muscle of the machine with great color, scaling effects, and some pretty incredible music. The thing is that pretty much all the strengths these two platforms had could be replicated in software. You take someone that knows what they are doing, and more than likely they can mimic just about anything in software code. Of course, there's always limits you hit eventually. You won't be getting Halo running on a Sega Genesis anytime soon, but within reason, this is almost always the case. Panorama Cotton showed off a fully functional software sprite and background scaling engine that ran far smoother than you ever would have thought possible. Things become even more impressive when you get a motivated programmer with the passion to show off their skill set. I have seen numerous demos on the Genesis showing me things that have been truly impressive. There's the Genesis running Star Fox on 100% original hardware without any booster chips. G-Zero is a demo showing the Genesis running an F-Zero style engine, again completely without any additional chips. I've even seen a damn near retail quality port of Wolfenstein 3D on the Genesis. Just check out that engine on hardware that has no specific acceleration for anything you're seeing. There's been countless bootlegs of Mario on the Genesis that easily show off it could replicate the color used in those games as well. When the Sonic demo landed, I knew I had seen the name of the person that had created it, TiagoSC, so I went back into my list of games and sure enough, they also created the Genesis demo of Mega Man X. In case you didn't catch that one, it very much recreates the looks and sounds of the Super Nintendo version. The color, the music, it all is shockingly similar. Again, further proof that a good programmer can be the great equalizer in many instances like these. I guess the point of this video is to remind you all that the person or persons behind the games you play are just as important as the hardware itself, if not more so. We have seen countless examples of different development teams achieving varying results with retail products, and now, 30 years later, we are seeing these machines doing things they were never designed to do, or that we thought we'd ever see running. Sonic on the Super Nintendo is a neat thing to behold just because the era was so hotly contested, and it's something that never would have happened back then. I do think, however, it's silly to hold it up as some sort of proof that the Super Nintendo overcame its stigma of being slow. The Super Nintendo has a number of fast-paced games that have existed for years, so this should come as no surprise to anyone. What it should be celebrated for is the incredibly talented homebrew scene that exists today. People like TiagoSC are putting out hacks, demos, and fully featured games for these old machines that are both impressive visually but also showing us that rarely is hardware the determining factor in the quality of the software that runs on it. I think we can learn a lot from old Sonic here, not because it did something the Super Nintendo wasn't supposed to be able to pull off, but rather that the men and women who are responsible for releases like this are the real power behind these consoles. You can sit and argue specs and capabilities until you're blue in the face, but none of that matters a lick when you have a programmer determined to give you something special. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.